be it the suspects taken over by the demon, a satanic ritual, or random haunting screams. There are times when cops have to deal with situations that are far more unpredictable and out of control than just the average criminals. So take a deep breath before we dive right into some of the most scary moments that made it onto the body camera. TikTok user at Stonerable shared unsettling footage from a residential area in Cape Town, South Africa on December 9th, 2024. The video showed police officers responding to a call from a homeowner who reported seeing something unusual hiding in the back seat of his car. When the officers arrived and surrounded the vehicle, the figure initially thought to be a witch was revealed to be a woman appearing to be under some kind of strange, almost paranormal influence. She was eventually detained and taken away in a police vehicle, leaving viewers of the clip both shocked and confused by the unusual circumstances. Disappearing occupant. In the outskirts of Dallas, Texas, an officer had a speeding vehicle pulled over. As he cautiously approached to check the driver's license and registration, he noticed something strange. There was no one inside. When he had first spotted the vehicle, he was certain someone was driving it, and since it had come to a complete stop under his observation, there was no chance the driver could have gotten out unnoticed. The empty car left the officer baffled, unsure how it had appeared driverless in an instant. Hitching apparition. During the early morning hours on Route 34 near Totores, Santa Fe, a group of truck drivers reported a disturbing encounter while traveling together. One driver noticed a woman standing by the roadside, only for her to vanish moments later. Shortly afterward, another driver approaching the lead truck turned on his lights and claimed to see a woman standing at the top of the rear bumper of the moving vehicle, her face never visible. When the truck stopped at a nearby roundabout, the figure reportedly dropped away and disappeared. Deeply shaken, the drivers continued on to another town. The incident was recorded, but remains unexplained. Dragging shadow. An off-duty officer experienced a frightening encounter at the entrance of his home. As he was stepping outside, a shadowy humanoid figure suddenly emerged and tried to pull him back into the doorway. His frantic screams and struggle ultimately forced the figure to release him, after which it vanished into the darkness. Terrified, the officer quickly retreated into his house and reported the incident to his building manager. When they later reviewed security footage together, both were left in shock at what had been captured, unable to explain the mysterious figure. Passing away.
Shots fired. Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Everybody back up! Bella, come! Back up!
Dashcam footage from a police car in Racine, Wisconsin captured an unbelievable moment during an arrest on May 22nd, 2023. Only seconds after officers had cornered a suspect they were pursuing, the camera's lens caught a moment that appeared to show what looked like a soul separating and leaving shortly afterward. This footage caught the attention of an internal affairs officer who was investigating the case, and the clip was later made public following public outcry over the incident.
Back! Is everybody okay? Is everybody good?
Before we start, hit like and subscribe to stay alert, because these strange moments from around the world weren't supposed to exist. Haunting screams. Several reports of unsettling screams emerged across parts of Ohio a few months ago, prompting concern among local authorities. In one documented incident, an officer was dispatched to investigate the source of the noise, but found no suspicious individuals or visible cause upon arrival, but heard this. The situation grew stranger when similar screams were later reported by officers patrolling a nearby graveyard. The sound was described as intense and unnatural, unlike anything typically produced by a person or an animal. As the echo carried through the area, the officers quickly retreated from the scene. Despite multiple reports, the origin of the screams was never identified, leaving the incidents unexplained. Hair-pulling incident. A female police officer in Florida was working overtime over a case when something very unexpected happened. Just as she stepped away from her desk for a short break, within the alleyway, her hair got pulled randomly by an unknown entity. With no one around her, it was clear that this was the doing of a ghost, an obvious hunch that proved to be true, as the officer saw the CCTV footage in hopes of actually getting to see it. Black Charro. In a small town near Acapulco, Mexico, an unsettling CCTV footage was captured, showing a disturbing-looking figure that left viewers uneasy. The video shows a dark, unexplained presence that many local residents believe resembles the legendary Black Charro, a mythical demonic figure said to appear riding on horseback. The brief recording sparked fear and debate within the community, as no clear explanation has been found for what the camera captured. Parking lot ghost. Security camera footage from a parking structure in Ikebukuro, Tokyo, captured an unusual moment involving a passing vehicle. The recording shows an apparition briefly standing in what appeared to be a parking space, facing a driver as the car slowly moved through the area. It remains unclear whether the driver noticed the figure, as he maneuvered carefully without showing signs of alarm. The figure remained motionless as the vehicle passed close by, then vanished from view moments later, leaving the incident unexplained. Spooky twins. A patrolling police car in Montana was making its routine rounds when it encountered an unexpected situation. As they were passing from a residence, they noticed movement in the dark, only to discover two very small figures that were walking on the other side of the gate. Considering that they didn't look suspicious and the hour of the night, they decided not to pursue rather than use the facility of the camera to zoom in on it and get a better look at it. The possibility of them being residents of that place was also considered, despite their spooky nature, which made them look otherwise. Weird jumping entity. Officers who were on a break during a late-night patrol where they had one of the most unexpected encounters. It started from a house that was just over a dozen meters away from them, which was thought to be a tall inflatable on the roof of the house. After a couple of minutes, it randomly shapeshifted as it came and sprang upon their squad car, looking more like a very skinny, humanoid-like figure with wings and the ability to fly. One of the officers on scene described it to have features resemblance to Jeepers Creepers, a fictional character known to exist only in Hollywood movies. Troublesome soul. Security camera footage from a motel somewhere in Saudi Arabia documented a dramatic moment of a man's encounter with a spirit. While he was sitting outside, a figure, or a spirit, can be seen rushing towards him. At first, it sits behind him before starting to run around all over the area and even passing through the parked car, repeatedly creating a moment of panic for the man who was not able to see it, but could feel its presence. It got to a moment that the man started turning on the lights, hoping to notice. Judging from its human-like stature, it looked more like a soul than a spirit. Troubling Karen. If there is anything worse than your typical Karens, it's one that is possessed. An officer who was responding to a call of domestic disturbance in Albuquerque, New Mexico, had a very unexpected encounter with a Karen who looked to be far from anything normal. Despite the efforts of the officer to calm her down and exercise control over the situation, she didn't cooperate, instead pronouncing, "I have exorcised the demons," to the officer. At this point, the officer had to respond to contain and defuse the situation. Vanished woman. A traffic officer in Memphis, Tennessee, pulled over a woman after she ignored a couple of red lights. Initially, she confronted the driver for her license and registration after asking her a couple of questions. Just as she looked away to proceed and verify them, the woman suddenly vanished out of thin air.
Stop signs.
I was just headed to a friend's house. It's like literally right there. It's
Sit tight, Sarah. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Your registration is What the?
Sarah?
The officer was caught in surprise and desperate for answers, even after reviewing the body camera footage several times. Was she a ghost or spirit that was in physical form? Are the kind of questions that were started to run around.
3201. The dispatch. Hi.
Satanic ritual. In Calgary, an off-duty officer recorded an unsettling incident in his neighborhood that later drew widespread attention. The footage appeared to show a large, shadowy figure confronting a man, forcing him backward as he screamed in distress. The man could be seen striking the ground repeatedly and reacting defensively whenever the shadowy form seemed to approach him. Toward the end of the clip, he lunged toward the figure and began moving erratically. After the video circulated, viewers offered various interpretations, with some suggesting a ritualistic act and others proposing a psychological or visual explanation. The true nature of the incident was never confirmed. Representative of devil.
I'm just gonna stare at him then. Okay, right.
A former police officer reported witnessing an unsettling scene outside a church late at night, which he managed to partially capture on video. The footage showed several jet-black humanoid figures standing motionless near the church entrance, each appearing to have horn-like shapes on their heads. As he continued recording, a truck passed through the area, and the figures suddenly vanished without a trace. Moments later, the recording ended abruptly as the witness retreated in fear. The officer later claimed he believed the figures were dark entities meant to lure people near the church, though no explanation for the sighting was ever confirmed. Witch in White. A clip dating to April 8, 2019 shows an unusual moment at Galerías La Paz, a shopping mall in Mexico. A security officer had completed his routine patrol without noticing anything out of the ordinary, but upon returning to the surveillance room, his partner asked if he had seen a woman dressed in white. When the officer said he had not encountered anyone, they reviewed the CCTV footage together. The recording appeared to show a woman in white present during the patrol, despite no one being seen in person. Could it be some witch or a ghost that appeared in a physical form? Chasing shadow. A tenant from an apartment building in Dunhuang City, China, was randomly recording until this really weird shadow was seen. A night guard who was leaving after the end of his shift didn't know that he was being followed by a shadow or a ghost that was hovering several inches from the ground. It never got too close to the guard, but still raised suspicion and concern that the tenant kept on recording. Later in the day, the same shadow once again surfaced on one of the security cameras. Bridal ghost. In New Jersey, an off-duty officer was walking his dogs late at night when they suddenly began acting fearful and agitated, as if sensing something unseen. As he tried to calm them, a humanoid figure emerged nearby, its presence marked only by a shiny white wedding dress that stood out in the darkness, while no clear body features could be seen. The dogs retreated behind the officer, refusing to move. After a brief moment, the figure slowly walked away, allowing the officer to return home safely. When he later shared the experience with family members, they associated the sighting with a bridal ghost described in South Asian folklore. Vanishing figure.
Okay, so right, I'm looking at this. I think there's a woman standing there.
Okay, let's just see if she's still there. Yeah, she's definitely still there.
A tourist in an apartment complex in Yishun, Singapore, who had stepped outside of his room for a smoke when he noticed something that caught his attention. He spotted a feminine-type figure who, according to him, had been standing idly at a single spot for over an hour. In concern of the reason why, he decided to investigate despite the fact that the figure looked quite creepy. He went on to the other building and on the same floor, but the creepy figure mysteriously happened to disappear completely, almost as if she was surveilling him. House disturbance.
This place definitely gives out some creepy vibes.
After a 911 call was made by a concerned neighbor in Frankfort, Kentucky, who reported hearing a disturbance at a house whose owner was out of the country. Once the officers arrived on the scene and were looking around with flashlights, the body cam of one of them picked up the silhouette of a shadowy figure that seemed to be staring back at them. The officers didn't notice it on the spot, as it may not have been visible to the naked eye. Rather, they looked for signs of breaking in.
This place definitely gives out some creepy vibes. I keep seeing shadows walking by. What the f***?
Haunted vehicle chase. Body cam footage from two police officers in Manchester who were pursuing a suspicious vehicle. While chasing the vehicle, it suddenly stopped next to a wall, whereas the officers were expecting it to turn into a foot chase, but no one happened to be anywhere around. This got even more bizarre as no one was inside the vehicle, and also that it was locked completely. A wall next to it would have made it impossible to escape without being seen. The moment left them both surprised and confused, who kept looking around for answers. The driver is speculated by many to have been paranormal. Terrifying occupant.
Meu Deus do céu, cara!
In Mexico City, police officers were checking out a cabin after a call of a possible robbery that was made in one of the other houses nearby. Once the officers were done looking around the original location, they started to hear a disturbance from one close by. As they surrounded it and were about to make their way in, when one of them noticed its very terrifying-looking occupant that briefly moved inside. Upon seeing it, they sprinted away in fear, and later described it to be something very similar to a typical Skinwalker, but this one was only bigger.
Meu Deus do céu, cara! Meu Deus, cara, corre!
Laorona sighting. In a remote village in Peru, residents reported hearing the loud crying of a woman, prompting local police to investigate. When officers arrived and reviewed their dashcam footage, they were met with a startling sight: a lone figure in the distance, walking barefoot along the road in a flowing white gown. As the officers approached, hoping to offer help, they were struck with horror. Her skin was pale and withered, and her eyes appeared completely devoid of pupils. Frightened, the officers retreated quickly. Locals speculated about the figure, with some calling her Laorona from Mexican folklore, while others suggested it was merely a woman in costume. To this day, the incident remains unexplained. Paranormal interference.
Oh, hell no. This is what I'm talking about, dude. This is what I'm talking about.
A security officer working a night shift at the San Francisco Armory reported an unusual incident while on duty, January 7th, 2019. After hearing unexplained sounds resembling chairs being moved inside the lounge area, the officer began recording as he walked through the building. Each time the sounds occurred, he paused to listen. During one of these moments, the two main lounge doors were seen opening inward on their own. At the time, the officer was alone inside the armory, and a later check confirmed that all windows were securely closed. Ghostly soul. While examining street surveillance footage for a case, a prosecutor noticed something unusual in the recording. A shadowy, human-like figure appeared suddenly in the roadway, moved briefly across the scene, and then vanished as abruptly as it had appeared. The figure had no clear source and did not resemble any visible pedestrian or vehicle. Some observers later speculated that the image could be linked to a man who had died in a car accident on the same road, while others suggested it may have been the result of camera distortion or lighting effects. The incident remains unexplained. Spirit residing. At a police station in Chile, officers reported a series of unusual occurrences that drew attention during a night shift. CCTV footage from one such incident showed a door opening on its own, followed by a faint, mist-like form drifting through the doorway. The shape appeared briefly before fading from view. An officer later approached the area to investigate, but found no one present. After closing the door, she returned inside. Some later speculated that the unexplained activity might suggest presence, though no clear explanation was ever found. Hovering shadow.
เห็นดิอ๋อเนี่ยคือดูไงมันก็ใช่เหี้ยใช่ป่ะล่ะ
At the entrance of a Malaysian police station, a security camera captured an unsettling scene. The footage showed a shadowy figure of unknown origin hovering just above the trees near the entrance. At first, it appeared to be moving toward the station's checkpost, causing concern among the officers monitoring the feed. Moments later, the figure drifted away and vanished into another line of trees, leaving no clear explanation for what had been seen.
บอกว่าเป็นลูกโป่งไอ้เหี้ยเป็นกูยืนอยู่แล้วกูวิ่งแล้วไอ้ตัวไอ้ลูกโป่งนี่อะไรอ่ะลอยบินลงมาลง
However, hours after these moments, some unusual activity started to follow at the same police station, where 3 officers were at the front desk, talking and attending to their tasks, when both entrance doors suddenly swung open on their own. As one officer approached the wooden door, it unexpectedly closed by itself. He entered to investigate, but found no sign of an intruder. The other officers quickly gathered, shocked and puzzled by what had occurred. Since then, similar unexplained incidents have been reported at the station, and no official explanation has ever been provided. Ghost Girl. Just outside a funeral home in Wichita, Kansas, a body camera of a police officer who was making a stop captured something absurd. A glowing type of silhouette of ghost or a spirit that appeared as it brushed away quickly. Officers as well managed to see it only after having the clip played in slow motion. It looks like this could be the wandering soul of a recently deceased girl. Ghost's 911 call. In the quiet early hours of August 11th, 2018, just before 3:30 a.m., an unexpected 911 call reached the Pueblo Police Department. The call disconnected almost immediately, but was traced to Imperial Memorial Gardens, a funeral home and cemetery along West State Highway 78. When dispatchers tried to call back, the line responded only with static and faint, unrecognizable sounds. An officer was sent to check the location and found the grounds locked, dark, and completely still. No signs of forced entry or movement were discovered. With no clear explanation for the call, the strange incident at the funeral home was left unresolved. Hawkins Lab.
No way.
Fucking
There is
told
no
you.
way.
You thought it was crazy.
There is
It's
no
moving,
way
I can see
there.
it's closing.
Completely shut.
A team of teenage security workers recorded an unsettling incident near Hawkins Lab in Georgia after noticing something unusual. They began filming when a door started opening and closing by itself, despite the air being completely still. Moments later, they captured footage of a motionless figure standing on a balcony, silently watching them. The figure appeared humanoid, dressed in dark clothing, and wore a white mask. Frightened by what they saw, the teens quickly left the area before the figure could move any closer.
Figure. Here.
No, I see
You're
it.
recording
I
that,
see
right?
it. I see it.
Okay, so you...
Please, I see a dark figure moving.
Oh my god.
Tree spirit. While patrolling a park in San Francisco, police officers noticed an unusual tree that immediately caught their attention. Carved into the trunk was what appeared to be a human face, with clearly defined eyes, nose, and lips that remained visible both in light and shadow. The striking resemblance was difficult to overlook. Nearby passers-by told the officers that the tree was locally known as the Spirit Tree, a nickname given because of its eerie, lifelike features. Shadow of Ghost. A night security guard unknowingly captured a chilling encounter while investigating a series of strange events at Tomás Adolfo Duco Stadium in Buenos Aires, Argentina, May 16, 2018. Raúl Arguello, 32, had been recording on his phone to catch whoever was repeatedly opening and slamming shut a dressing room door. When he opened the door, no one was inside. But as he continued filming, a shadowy figure suddenly appeared, moving swiftly across the benches from left to right before vanishing into the wall. The fleeting glimpse of the ghostly presence left the guard shaken, and the incident remains unexplained. Fountain Spirit. This footage, captured by a school security camera in Michigan on June 25, 2013, shows a strange and unexplained phenomenon. A glowing orb repeatedly appeared near a drinking fountain, seemingly only manifesting whenever someone walked close by, almost as if replaying a lingering memory. Its eerie presence drew the attention of students, who began referring to it as the water fountain spirit. The mysterious activity remains unexplained, leaving both staff and students intrigued and unsettled. Supernatural creature. A resident requested a security guard to lock his apartment after room service had finished. While securing the door, the guard briefly sensed something in his peripheral vision, but dismissed it at the time. Later, feeling unsettled, he decided to review the CCTV footage. What he saw startled him. A small, shadowy humanoid figure appeared to move out from one doorway and vanish into another. When the guard shared the footage with a colleague, he was told that similar sightings had been noticed before, particularly during nighttime patrols in empty hallways. Graveyard Spirit. After hearing echoes of screams from a nearby cemetery, he decided to investigate. As a safety measure, he chose to do so using a drone. After attaching a flashlight next to a camera that was actively recording, he dispatched the drone toward the source of the screams. Seconds later, he came across a smoke-like silhouette that, upon noticing the drone, appeared to rush away and disappear within moments. He could not find it again, despite making an effort to search the area. Haunted house raid.
Downstairs, clear.
A neighbor, worried after noticing unusual activity at a home whose owner was away on vacation, contacted 911 to report a possible break-in. Officers were dispatched and conducted a thorough search of the residence, but found no intruders inside. During the inspection, however, something unusual occurred when one of the doors opened on its own, without explanation. The officers also noted intermittent issues with their body cameras, which briefly glitched or stopped recording. As they were preparing to leave the property, the sound of heavy footsteps suddenly echoed behind them, prompting a hurried exit. The incident was left unexplained. Ghost intruder. On the night of October 18th, 2018, in Madrid, Spain, a security officer was patrolling a closed corporate office building when he noticed what appeared to be a person peeking from behind a corner on a restricted floor. The figure seemed to gesture with a hand, immediately drawing his attention. The officer rushed over to investigate, expecting to confront an intruder, but found no one there. With all exits locked and no clear way for anyone to escape, he searched the floor, but found no trace of anyone, leaving the encounter unexplained. Investigators' discovery. Former police detective turned private investigator Ali Aslan was searching for a missing relative when his trail led him to an abandoned guest house in a remote area of Cairo, Egypt. As he moved through the dark building, he heard strange noises that he initially dismissed as rain. However, upon leaving the structure, he noticed the silhouette of a dark figure outside, suggesting that someone or something had been watching him from the shadows. Beasts Takeover. In Lisbon, Portugal, on November 21st, 2023, a video shared by TikTok user at Canalex TV showed a disturbing moment involving a man who had been arrested and placed in the back of a police vehicle. In the footage, the man behaved erratically, speaking in Portuguese in a manner that the bystander who was getting a statement felt it to be unlike anything human. Some interpreted his behavior as if he were under the influence of a powerful, unknown force. While the circumstances leading up to the arrest remain unclear, the clip drew attention due to the man's intense statements directed at the officer, leaving the incident open to speculation rather than explanation. Chosen by Ghost. A security camera at El Milagro Market in Ventilla, Peru, captured a strange and unsettling event that quickly drew attention on June 7, 2024. The footage shows a guard patrolling an empty corridor before stopping and appearing to speak to someone. Later, he explained to reporters that he had seen a little girl standing alone and, thinking she was lost, tried to comfort her while asking her to wait for her mother. However, the video revealed that no one else was present, showing him talking to empty air and leaving the incident unexplained. Open discussion. This picture and video was taken on October 9th, 2025 by deputies from the Kendall County Sheriff's Department who were tracking a stolen police car while looking for the culprit and made an unexpected discovery. Inside the vehicle, they found a woman who appeared to be possessed, sitting in the driver's seat and staring at the officer with an unsettling smile. At that moment, it became clear to the deputy that something was deeply wrong. As he approached, his camera abruptly stopped recording, leaving what happened next shrouded in mystery. The video has definitely reached its end. I will see you again with another BOW video. Until then, you can check these other videos out for a wow dose of entertainment and knowledge.